Good afternoon from sunny Portugal. Today we're going to talk about why we bought this property.
So, going back some time, feels like a hell of a long time ago, but it's actually not that far ago. We came up with a rough list, very rough and very brief, of what we kind of were looking for, because we didn't really know. You don't know until you get here. And I was just looking on my phone because I jotted down at the time some of the things that we thought were important. Again, until you get here, you just don't know, but you have to have a starting point. I'm just going to run through my list, and then Jem might add a few things to it, because obviously there's two of us in this relationship and each of us has got our own ideas. So on my list it said price has to be on budget. We want to live on the edge of a village or town. We didn't really want to live in a town or village, not surrounded by other properties. We wanted a detached house, so not a semi. We wanted a proper bathroom.
We don't have that.
We don't have that, so scratch that one off of my list. The project must have a roof. That was on there because a lot of the rustic buildings we were looking at in our price bracket were literally roofless. Roofless? Yeah, ruthless and roofless. So that would have meant a delay and the spend of putting a roof in before we could even start on anything else. And we wanted something with good road links. That was also important because when we'd looked on Google Earth at various properties, they were often halfway up a mountainside, down a dirt road, on the slope, and not really practical. They were cheap, but not really practical places to live. So something with good road links was on our, well, definitely on this list. My all-time favourite was living near water. I wanted a big lake or a river, especially a river, running water. There's several other YouTubers, especially Maya, who we watch, don't we?
Yeah.
She's got a river at the bottom of her property where, when the weather turns like it has today, she's down there and bathing and swimming. Fantastic. And we would watch her episodes and really feel like we wanted some running water of our own, if possible. You know, we didn't know whether we'd get that in our budget, but fortunately we have. We wanted to live as near to the coast as possible. The problem with coastal properties is they are more expensive. The further you come inland, the lower the price. So it was a case of getting as near to the coast as we could, and yet still in our price budget. And we wanted to be a reasonable distance from a major airport in case we had to fly home or fly to America to see our daughter or anything like that. We wanted to be a reasonable distance from an airport. Another thing about this type of land, which Jem might explain, is this is urban land that we've bought, and that's important because...
And that's in my list, number one. Because there's no point buying a property that you can't live in it because you're not allowed or no permit to live in it. There's no habitational license, and mine is had to have a garden. You don't need a big land. I just want to grow some vegetables and flowers, that's all. Simple.
Simple. Obviously it's a bonus to have a garden this size because it gives you so many options. For example, we can build a swimming pool perhaps on this level, and you know, if the grandchildren come, there's room to play games, kick a ball, play badminton. It just feels nice to have, and the land comes with the property. So yeah, I think we tend to compare to the UK. A detached house in a good location with 1,000 square metres of land, we wouldn't get for £35,000, which is what we've paid for this. And this property, it ticks so many of those boxes. apart from, as we said, the bathroom. But it's something that's doable, you know. We can, I'm sure, get a bathroom fitted. Now, another question that was asked of us was about the buying process. Through Maryline, the estate agent, we were introduced to Maryline, the lawyer. Do you remember the first time we went to see her, how that went? It was all about the promissory.
Yes, the buying process is obviously you look at property online or contact a estate agent, and then if you choose to see few houses, and it's the same process as the UK more or less, is you make an offer to the property that you're thinking of buying, and then the estate agent will contact the seller, and then if both party agrees to the price, you make an offer, and then says agreed, okay, and then the next step would be contacting a lawyer. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And then, like a lot of people, we lowballed it and came in with a crazy low offer just to test the water, really. But that was knocked back straight away. It was put to us that this property is on sale at a low price already, and the price that we were offering was crazy. And we actually knew that because Dan had taken us round to look at other properties in the meantime, and for anything of this kind of calibre, you were looking at 55,000, 60,000, yeah. 65,000. So we went off to see the lawyer. Now, her name is Maryline. She's originally French, I believe. That may be wrong. So, but English isn't her first language. Let's put that out there. But she speaks perfect English. So she was recommended by the estate agent, by Maryline, and her office was in the town of Bonjardim in central Portugal, which you can find on a map. We had her address, which we put into SatNav, and we phoned and made an arrangement to go and meet her to do a thing called checking through the promissory. The promissory, do you want to say a little bit about how the promissory works?
The promissory is that your offer has been accepted by the seller, and then the lawyer has to draw a promissory note that you have to give 10% of the amount, the value of the property, to pay as a deposit. And that has to be done through a lawyer. That's what we did anyway.
Yeah, the way that worked was that we paid the lawyer €4,000, which was 10% of the 40,000 that we paid for this property, €40,000. And it was a little bit nerve-wracking because we'd only just met her, and she's straight away saying, well, you've got to give me 4,000 and don't worry about it, sort of thing, and pay it into my bank account. It's just the way it works, but it was all new to us, and we were ultra cautious at the time as well, weren't we, giving the money away. But we went ahead and we paid into her account what was the deposit, and that kind of got the ball rolling. So the way the promissory works is that we promised that if we dropped out for any reason, we lost that deposit, so that 4,000 would have been gone. Now the good thing from our aspect was, should the seller drop out for any reason, i.e. someone gazumps your price,
yeah,
then they have to pay you back the 4,000 twice. In other words, they give you back 8,000. Double. So that sounded good. That sounded like a good system to me. It kind of stops that gazumping that can happen in the UK. So we went ahead with that, and then The next thing was to pay the balance, but before we did that, we had to have a sit down with the lawyer where she reads through the contract, and I think it was about 9 or 10 pages
Yes.
of different aspects of buying a property in Portugal. Now, the seller had already gone through this document and signed it, so he'd done his side of it. We then, as a couple, had to go through it page by page. It's in Portuguese, she translated it into English, and if there were any problems that we could foresee, we stopped, and she would make, if necessary, amendments to the document. And that did happen a couple of times. Do you remember what the amendments were? They were small things, weren't they? I can't remember exactly. They were such.
But there were clauses in there that it doesn't apply to us. Therefore, she cross it out or says it doesn't apply to us or anything like that. So yeah, it is good to see a lawyer.
One of them that sticks in my mind was that people that live either side of the property you're buying can have the option to offer the same amount that you've offered, and because they're the neighbour, they get precedence.
Priority.
They get priority. Now, this is done mostly in the cities, apparently, not so much in the countryside, although it's a countrywide law. And the way it works is it's posted on an online notice board, so to speak, that this house is being sold for this amount of money, and if you are a neighbour, come forward, and if you match the price, then you will be considered. Take 3. The promissory note. Really, it's important to get this right. So you sit down in the lawyer's office, we did with Maryline, and she read through the 9 pages of the promissory note in English and made sure that we understood and agreed with each section. And after we'd done that, we were able to initial each section to say we understood it, and at the end we signed up our names and gave our bank account details, and at that stage we paid the balance to the lawyer herself into her account. The reason you do that is that she's the one, when all the parties meet up, to pass the cheque from the buyer to the seller, and that all has to be done in person. So he came along, it was a gentleman, he came along with his representative, and we went actually with Maryline came with us. They're only there really for any translation that might need doing between the two parties, but as it turned out, it was all very straightforward. He was happy to sell, we were happy to buy it, and both sides agreed with everything in the documentation. The main things that we were concerned about were things that we'd heard on the internet about how sometimes property can be divided between a family, whereby a son or a daughter or 2 or 3 siblings own parcels of the land. But in this case, it was just the gentleman owned it entirely, so there were no other complications. But all this needs to be down in writing, because you don't want to be bitten by it at a later date. So we really emphasised how strongly we felt about that, because it was something that we'd researched and were trying to be cautious of. It didn't affect us, but we made sure that in the documentation it definitely said there was no problem with outside parties having any claim on this land. On the day of the transfer, it was quite a laid-back affair. We all met at the office. Maryline, our lawyer, once more read through all the clauses in front of everybody, and we all verbally agreed on the day signed again, and there was lots of signing to do. But we went through all the signing, and the cheque passed to the seller, who very quickly put it in his wallet. He seemed quite pleased to receive his 40,000 euros. I will add, there were fees to pay. There were lawyer fees, obviously, and there were taxes. In total, I think the amount that we paid above and beyond the purchase price worked out at around
1,300 and something, 75, just below 1,400
euros.
euros.
So around 1,400.
That includes the lawyer's fees and that's it.
Yeah, and the various
And the deeds.
Yeah, and also there was a charge for using the lawyer's bank account, which I think was 26 euros. So yeah, a grand total of, just like Jen says, just under 1,400 euros we paid on top of the purchase price,
Yeah.
which we thought was pretty reasonable, really, considering.
Yeah.
And yeah, we all shook hands, and the deal was done. To be honest, it was very straightforward and simple, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't, wasn't too bad. An hour, was sitting there, relax and.
Yeah, and the fact that the agents were there, that are fantastically friendly people from Casa Rural as well. They're representing both sides, seller and buyer. So yeah, it really was quite a laid-back deal that was done. The looking back, probably one of the most stressful moments of the whole affair from day one was that we had a sat-nav address for the lawyer's office in the town of Bonjardim.
Bonjardim.
Bonjardim, sorry.
Dicinas or something.
Bonjardim. Something about garden. Lovely garden. We'd driven to that town the night before the actual meeting in the van, because obviously we can park up and sleep wherever we like in the van. And the next morning, trying to find the office, we walked. In Portugal, the numbers of the houses don't always run in the correct order. So, for example, you could have 82, 84, 86, 103. It seems to be every road. So you think, oh, 84, perhaps 88's the other side of the road. You go the other side of the road and it's number 5. So we were walking up and down. We couldn't find at first the number of her office. So where did we go?
To the bomberos, to the fire department.
The fire department. We walked in and they kind of looked at us as if to say, why are these two strangers walking into the fire station? But there was a secretary in there that had some reasonable amount of English. And we said, can you help us? We've walked up and down this town and we can't find the lawyer's office. And she said, lawyer? We said, yeah, Maryline Marques, which is her name. Oh, Maryline. Down there on the right, just before the roundabout. So, in some ways, because that was our first time visiting, we were quite pleased that the people in the fire station knew her personally. Because prior to that, it had only been through emails. And because in our minds we were wondering, oh, is it all legit? It was nice to know that, yeah, there is a real person in a real office, and she turned out to be fantastic, didn't she? Such a lovely lady, and really went out of her way to help us to understand the system. So we're getting no sponsorship or anything for this, but we would definitely recommend, if you're looking for a lawyer in our part of central Portugal, to contact Maryline Marques in
Bonjardim Dicinas, I think.
Yeah.
We'll put the
Yeah, we'll put all the details up
in
on
the
the screen. And yeah, if you are looking for a lawyer, as were we when we came, a recommendation, we can definitely recommend her. So again,
now the next one will be the deeds that will be transferred into our names, which it takes 2 to 3 months.
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
have a copy of it, like a digital copy, but it needs to be sent off to Lisbon and then sent back to the lawyer, which is we have now.
Yeah, that should be coming soon. The way that works is we were given a set of deeds straight away, but they were still in the name of the seller. So we held the deeds physically on paper, but they were in his name still. And it takes, as Jen said, a while for that process of those deeds being changed into our name. Maryline got onto that straight away and has chased it, because sometimes bureaucracy here is quite slow moving. And she's been able to forward to us in email the actual copy of the document, and that's winging its way slowly down to us. It's going to be sent to the estate agent, and then we physically have to drive to the estate agent and they hand it over. So that's going to be quite a day. I think we'll have a glass of something on that day to celebrate actually holding the deeds in our name. But we know they're alive somewhere because we've seen them in an email.
Yeah.
So okay, well, I hope some of that information, although it's been slightly garbled, and we're not experts by any means, but that's just our experience, wasn't
Yes,
it?
that's the process that we've been through and we've gone through.
Yeah, and it wasn't too painful at all,
It was,
really.
no,
It was, yeah. We had all these worries, but it was fine.
Yeah.
So, if you're looking to purchase in Portugal, again, you know, Maryline's a good one to go for, as are Casa Rural, if they've got a property that you're interested in. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.